Throughout the Legend of Zelda series, there has always been a huge emphasis on music, from the banger soundtrack to even specific songs that Link learns throughout his journey. These mythical melodies are just as memorable as the games themselves. Every game has their own unique theme to it, like the somber yet hopeful music of the title screen of Ocarina of Time to the whimsical melody of Wind Waker. These titles always carry with them a feeling of the start of a new journey for both Link and Zelda, and each of these titles have their own very important instrument that would stand out in these games, like the Ocarina, the Wind Waker, and even the harp in Skyward Sword. Now, we all know that Link is a courageous swordsman that saves the day, but believe it or not, he's also quite the musician. Almost every Link has had ties to music, and the magical melodies of those instruments have helped him on countless journeys. The most recent games like Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom have featured Link without using instruments, which I think is yet another step away from the traditional side of what Zelda used to be. So I'm going to rank all the instruments Link has used over the course of the franchise, and at the end, I also kind of want to come up with a new sort of instrument for Link to use in the next 3D Zelda, if it were to happen, of course. What's up guys, Tactics here with another video for you. Let's not waste any more time and dive right in. Now, starting things off, we've got the grass and horse whistle from Twilight Princess. At first, I was debating putting this one on the list, considering that it's not really an instrument. Link can pick up a piece of grass and recite a very familiar melody that can call upon Epona or even a hawk in Twilight Princess. It really feels like this man is truly one with nature, as we see Link herding goats, picking up dogs, and even messing around with the alley cats in Castletown. It really is funny when you think about it though. Link interacts with both the human world and the animal kingdom thanks to being able to transform into a wolf. But because it's not really a traditional instrument, nor does it have any real significant meaning other than having a way to call Epona to you, it deserves to be at the bottom spot on my list. Speaking of animals though, at number 14 we've actually have an instrument, this time being the animal flute from Oracle of Seasons. Now this instrument kinda plays a role in the story a little, since the animal flute allows Link to summon 3 different creatures to come to his aid, like the kangaroo that knows how to throw hands, the bear that has wings and can float over pitfalls, and a freaking dinosaur that can traverse through the water for Link. Each one has a role to help Link progress through the game and would be near impossible without them. Plus, I think Link sitting in the kangaroo's little sack is actually kinda cute. Oh, who's a cute little Link? Next on the list, we have the Ocarina of Winds from the Minish Cap. So, does anybody remember this item? Because I had completely forgotten about this before researching instruments for the video. This ocarina is miles inferior to the OG Ocarina of Time, but still holds some semblance of significance. The Ocarina of Winds is your reward for completing the Wind Fortress, and once played, it summons a bird named Zephyr that transports Link to any area where there are wind crests on the map. Personally, there's not much else to really say other than the tune the ocarina plays is the same tune from the first Legend of Zelda game when Link uses the recorder, and even during the intro in Ocarina of Time. It's always nice to see or hear key elements that reference other games in the series. Either way though, let's move on to the next one. Believe it or not, A Link Between Worlds featured an instrument as well, albeit a very simple one, being the bell. Now this thing acts like the flute a little from A Link to the Past, where you're able to summon Irene or her broom to move across Hyrule and even Lorule. You can travel to any weather vane Link has activated, making it easier to revisit these locations you've already explored. As I said before, the bell is the simplest of the instruments on this list, and to be honest, I could hardly even call Link a musician because of this. Definitely shouldn't be any higher on the list than where it is, but I'm no musical expert here. Maybe I'm throwing a little bit of shade, I guess, to all the musicians out there who are proficient in the art of bell ringing, but anyway, let's move on. At number 11 is the Flute from A Link to the Past. Now, I'm not going to say too much about this one since it kinda is similar to the last two entries. The only thing I will say though is the way you obtain it is pretty tragic, since you get the flute as a request from this bard. He gives you the shovel to go dig it up in the light world so that he can hear the sweet melody one last time before he completely succumbs to the curse of the dark world and morphs into a tree. The Zelda team must have really loved the flute since this instrument makes several returns to the series after its debut in the Adventures of Link. The flute in this game plays a prominent role in the story by having you obtain it in the 5th dungeon, the Ocean Palace. Playing this magical instrument in the center of the Three-Eye Rock near the town of Nabooru, this reveals the location to the Hidden Palace, which is the next dungeon. As I said before, this instrument went on to become one of the most iconic instruments that Link ever uses once Ocarina of Time released, bringing Zelda, pretty much all of gaming as well, into the 3rd dimension. I figured the number 10 spot was an appropriate placement since this was the first game to ever feature Link as a musician. So you thought we were done with flutes? Well, think again, because at number 9 we got the Spirit Flute from Spirit Tracks. See, I told you Nintendo really likes the flute a lot. Now this flute has a few unique elements to it that makes it stand out from the rest of the flutes, for better or worse depending on the person, and you'll see what I mean very soon. The Spirit Flute plays a huge part in the story of Spirit Tracks. Using it unlocks new zones to explore in New Hyrule. The Locomo Sages play a part in teaching Link how to use the flute and songs as well, but the thing about this flute comes from the fact that this game was on the 3DS with a built-in microphone. Players had to physically blow into the mic to play a tune, coupled with using the stylus to switch to different tunes, made using this instrument a unique experience. I can imagine some people having no problems with this mechanic while others found it to be quite frustrating. Regardless of how you feel about the controls of the Spirit Flute though, you at least have to give Nintendo props for trying out weird stuff like this in some of their games. But what do you guys think about the Spirit Flute? Was it a cool mechanic for anyone, or was it just too gimmicky for you? And while you're at it, consider liking the video if you're enjoying it so far, and maybe even subscribe to the channel so you can keep up with more Zelda content and other RPG related videos when I upload. Plus, I just want to give a huge thank you to everyone for all your support for helping me reach 500 subscribers. I recently just got back from vacation and I saw that I hit 500 subs and it just made me a very happy man. So once again, thank you guys so much for your support, and now that I'm back, I can push out more videos for you guys. But anyways, enough of all that, and let's get back to the video. Now these next couple of instruments all stem from the same game, and each one plays a pivotal role in their respective storyline. And at number 8 we've got the Goron drums. For me, the Goron drums were probably my least favorite of the instruments in Majora's Mask, mainly because the tunes they produced just didn't have much of an impact as the other two. However, I do believe that the wackiness of it all is pretty funny. But the biggest significance of the drums was to calm down a Goron child from crying so that it could teach the final verse to you, which turned out to be a lullaby. This allowed Link to put the large Goron to sleep, stopping him from blocking your path into the Snowhead Temple. As one of the 4 transformation masks, the Goron mask is right down the middle for me, and I do think the instrument for Goron Link fits it perfectly. but it still lacked that impact I was hoping for from a set of drums.
Okay.
The next instrument for the transformation mask is the Deku pipes. The pipes have that extra impact I was talking about from before. The tunes you play just hit harder and for some reason just stands out more than the drums do. Maybe it's due to the fact of how silly it looks. Not to mention you spend most of your time as Deku Link than with any of the other two transformation masks since you can't remove it during the opening moments of the game. Plus, once you get your hands on your ocarina again from the Skull Kid, the shock of seeing Link pull out the pipes was such a funny moment for me. I remember just how funny this was as a kid when I saw this for the first time. It really completely killed any sort of tension that was happening at the moment. Other than that, the pipes simply act as a tool for Deku Link to play the correct melody in front of a location to reveal the first dungeon in the game. It felt less involved than the Goron Lullaby and even with the next song that we're about to talk about. If you've seen my other recent video on the best and worst Zelda items, then you probably already know how I feel about the Zora mask. Since I spoke in detail about the mask itself, I'll be brief with it here, but certainly go check out that video if you haven't already. But anyways, the guitar is the perfect instrument for Zora Link. The fact that it's literally made out of fish bones that the Zora probably hunt in the Great Bay is such a neat idea. Not to mention how there's a whole band called the Indigos Go just paints the idea of how important music is in this game. Having the ability to play multiple types of instruments like percussion to woodwind is quite the feat. Once Link obtains all three masks, he's able to perform at the local pub in Clocktown, which literally makes him a one-man band. Now, as for the story behind the Zora mask, Link has to rescue Lulu's eggs that the pirates stole from her, causing her to lose her voice. Once her children hatch and teach Link the new wave bossa nova song, she regains her voice. I think it's interesting to note that the Goron's Lullaby was used to put those that listened to it to sleep, while the Zora's Children's song was used to awaken an ancient sleeping turtle and restore Lulu's voice. Out of all three instruments and songs that you learn, I still think the Zora song and even the one you learn from the Ghost Conductor in the Akana Kingdom are some of the most impactful melodies in the entire game, not to mention the Song of Healing. I just love how much music was so integral throughout this entire game. We need more of this in modern day Zelda. But anyways, enough of me gushing over the songs, let's move on to the next one. I don't think I could have put the instruments of the Siren really low, mainly because the entire game revolves around collecting these magical instruments in order to wake the windfish. Koholint Island is a dream world made up by the windfish, and Link has to defeat the nightmare in order to finish the process of waking up the windfish, so that he can then leave the island. The instruments include things like a harp, horn, another bell, and a triangle for some reason. Once all the instruments have been collected and gathered together, you're able to play the Ballad of the Windfish. I think it is pretty cool having a game with several instruments as the key artifacts that you need in order to save the day, but it makes the number 5 spot on my list mainly because of their connection to the windfish and the sad reality of what it means to use them to wake up that giant whale. It means saying goodbye to the many inhabitants of Koholint Island, including Marin, who you grow close to. But in order to continue your journey, you must sever those connections and live with your decisions in the ending credits. Another game that is heavily tied to music with a banger of a soundtrack to boot is Skyward Sword and the Goddess Harp. The Goddess Harp has a multitude of purposes for Link's journey of becoming the first hero and defeating the roots of all evil in Demise. Just like with other instruments, you learn many songs that open up new areas for Link to explore, and with the help of Fi's heavenly voice, the two of you are able to open up the rifts into the Silent Realm, where you must then experience some pretty anxiety-inducing trials, collecting tears.
Oh no!
Given to you by Zelda in a desperate moment, the Goddess Harp marks the beginning of the mid-game, where you must revisit the huge shrine of the goddess several times and learn new songs to progress through the game. Now, I won't lie, there was a lot of backtracking in this game, and it felt like it was done to just pad it out even more. But getting to use the Wii Remote to play the harp was pretty cool actually, and also frustrating when you couldn't get the rhythm right sometimes. Either way, I do love the Goddess Harp, and it really lets you know that Hylia was a lover of music as well, making it more understandable why so many games had music tied to the progression of the hero. Instruments in Zelda that are multi-purpose will always have a special place in my heart, and that goes for the Wind Waker at number 3. This instrument turns Link from someone who plays music to conducting the tunes themselves. Using the magical properties of the Wind Waker allows Link to control the wind and even produce many hymns, and depending on the combinations, he can control the winds in many ways, like changing its direction and even creating cyclones to carry him across the Great Sea in mere moments. Not to mention having the ability to conduct the newly appointed sages of learning songs to help create new paths into the temples of their ancestors. Honestly, I don't really have much else to say about the Wind Waker except that it was such a cool idea, and seeing Link truly becoming a master of the power of wind was a fantastic experience. Now, a lot of people may be a bit shocked to see the Ocarina of Time at number 2, but let me explain. This is the instrument that really established the series with its huge connection to music. The Ocarina has become so iconic that you can't even mention the game without speaking about the instrument in some way. The Ocarina makes itself known in both Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask. In Ocarina of Time, it feels as though it's used more as a tool, like with many other items in the game. Learning the many songs allows Link to unlock new areas to explore by playing certain songs to certain individuals like the Goron Chief using Saria's song. Then of course you've got Zelda's lullaby that aids Link in several situations throughout his journey. Then there's the many songs that Sheik or Zelda teaches you, allowing you to warp to certain key locations like the temple entrances, but none of these compare to the Song of Time. This melody opens up the door of time to the Master Sword that is also the bridge that leads to the Sacred Realm where the Triforce resides. The Ocarina of Time was always a precious item to Zelda, but it felt as though it would serve Link more in his journey, which it did considering the events of Majora's Mask. Now, whether you believe it or not that Link was going through the stages of grief after losing his own life doesn't change how clutch the Ocarina was for him in Termina. This game really showcases the powers of the Ocarina and the Song of Time to its fullest, and I guess even Link himself. After all, Link was never able to draw out the full power of the Ocarina or the song back in Ocarina of Time. But maybe after becoming the hero of time and growing stronger, he was capable of using the song to its fullest extent to return to the past in order to stop the moon from destroying Termina during the events in Majora's Mask. Not to mention the Ocarina having the ability to change its form to fit Link's many transformations is pretty wild. So if the Ocarina has so many incredible qualities, why is it at number 2, you might be asking yourself? Well, despite the Ocarina of Time having all these amazing traits, at it and Link's most capable moments, it was only able to carry him back in time, it seems. Only being able to return to the past doesn't compare to the Harp of Ages, which allows Link to move through time, whether he's going forward in time or backwards, depending on what kind of song he plays. The Harp of Ages is, for me, the strongest instrument in the entire series. After learning the necessary songs, Link is able to travel across pretty much the multiverse. Well, not really, but he is able to command and bend time to his will, although it has to be in certain locations where there are portals that can open up for him to travel. I'm certain that there are points throughout the world, including Hyrule, that have portals though. I mean, just look at A Link to the Past as an example. So finding these locations would be very much possible. Link would be able to travel to the distant past as well as the far-off future of Hyrule if he had the Harp of Ages or an instrument similar to it. Link was only ever able to return to the past at a specific point during both Ocarina and Majora's Mask. So we don't really know the actual capabilities of the Ocarina, but we know what the Harp of Ages can do to its fullest extent, which is why I think this instrument deserves to be number 1 on my list. Now, this leads me to my final point. What would be a great instrument for Link if the next 3D Zelda game brought back a magical instrument for our boy to use? Well, I think it needs to have ties to the original like the flute, while still having the capabilities of something like the Ocarina of Time or even the Harp of Ages. I think Link with a saxophone would be so badass. Believe it or not, the saxophone is like the OG instrument for jazz and hip hop, and it has class. The ladies just love the saxophone in my opinion. It's just such a sexy instrument. Now, I used to play saxophone back in the day, and I was shocked by just how many women wanted to feel the reverberations of the saxophone on their cheeks. And we already know Link has Riz. I mean, Zelda fell for him, Paya gets hot and bothered just by looking into those baby blues, and even Pura wanted that man's Master Sword. I saw how she was looking at that man. I don't think she really wanted to find Zelda for real in Tears of the Kingdom. She never left that camp once to actually look for any clues on her. But either way, there you have it, guys. But what do you guys think about the ranking? What instrument would you guys like to see Link use in the next 3D Zelda if it were to happen again? Let me know in the comments below. Alright, there you have it, guys. I hope you enjoyed the video, and if so, be sure to hit that like button for your boy and subscribe to the channel for more Zelda and other RPG related content like this if you haven't already. And once again, thank you guys for 500 subs. We are steadily climbing to 1,000 for the channel. Check out this video right here if you want to see the 7 of the best and worst items throughout the entire Zelda franchise if you haven't seen it. Either way, I appreciate you guys all the same, and with that, I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.